Story 1. I would likely receive feedback from an intern. Any other actions I took would probably be reversed by the subsequent individual or Congress, resulting in no meaningful impact from them. Story 2. Make the metric system the standard. It will be challenging and unpopular at first, but people will appreciate it in a decade, and I am not aiming to be re-elected. Story 3. To reduce the Department of Defense in half and invest all of it into scientific research, infrastructure spending, and education. Story 4. Write a law that prevents media from suppressing third-party candidates and mandates their inclusion in debates to provide the 330 million Americans with more than two options. Story 5. Drop the embargo on Cuba for trade, legalize marijuana at the federal level to generate tax revenue, and introduce a third-party political system. Story 6. Sign an executive order that a president can be held accountable for their crimes through a fair trial under an unbiased jury. Story 7. I would immediately rescind all tariffs and revoke all trade restrictions. I would do everything in my power to return authority to Congress as quickly and permanently as possible. Story 8. Reverse all my executive orders. Remove all tariffs. Reinstate the fight against climate change. Dismiss Elon Musk. I will turn myself in and serve time in jail for those felonies. Story 9. I would issue an executive order stating that whoever smelled it did not necessarily deal it. However, whoever replied is to remain the individual who supplied it. Story 10. Pardon Luigi. Citizens United is illegal. Forgiving student loan debt places the next president in the difficult position of declaring it illegal and reinstating everyone's debt. Additionally, we should destroy Russian supply lines into Ukraine within Russian territory and move troops into Ukraine to help secure Kiev. This would create a situation that would be challenging for the next president to reverse, ultimately ensuring the end of the invasion of Ukraine. Story 11. No more congressional trading. If caught, death penalty for familial weapons manufacturing trading. There solved world peace. Story 12. Deport immigrants. Prison reform. Healthcare reform, infrastructure improvements, term limits, rebuilding the southern states. Story 13. I am taxing all churches, from the large ones to the small ones in remote areas. They are now required to pay taxes, which may lead to them becoming unprofitable. The revenue from these taxes will be directed towards addressing the harm caused by Christianity in the country and, hopefully, facilitating the closure of churches permanently. Story 14. I would gather a group of scientists, scholars, and world-renowned economists to develop the most impactful action I can take, supported by data. Story 15. If I were the current one, I would fire myself and crawl inside a deep, dark hole, hoping that the rest of the world would forget my existence. Story 16. A day is not enough time to make any significant changes. Even executive orders would not matter if I were removed in a day. Give me a year and maybe I can start making progress. Story 17. To sit back and let the authorities do their work while prank calling Turkmenistan or the Republic of Congo. Perhaps even send Monaco a text. It's hard to say. Story 18. A return to Keynesian economics. You don't even have to raise taxes to address the wealth gap. Just make people pay what they owe, and you're 95% there. Story 19. I would make being a billionaire illegal and tax them significantly to fund social welfare programs. Story 20. An executive order calls for the immediate review of various powers granted to the executive branch, both implicitly and explicitly, by the legislative branch, with the intention of returning the powers I can relinquish and refraining from enforcing those I cannot. This will require Congress to restore those powers if they wish to accomplish their objectives. The president is not a king. Story 21. To establish the office of the presidency as primarily a diplomatic position rather than a dictatorship, which I believe has been progressively established since the founding of this country, the president currently has far more power than our founders intended. I would reestablish the majority of power with the states and Congress, and I would encourage congressional term limits. Story 22. Abolish Citizens United. Criminalize most lobbying and impose penalties on organizations to send a message. Ban drug marketing. Unravel the Patriot Act. Slash the defense budget by half and cancel all service contracts. Criminalize trading for government employees while increasing their pay. Finally, eliminate the Transportation Security Administration. Story 23. Enforcing mandatory and preference voting alongside a central, federally funded and legislated agency that oversees the conduct of elections, free from government interference. Story 24. Can it be now? Direct Elon Musk to be SpaceX's very next test pilot and order him to take his friend Trump. Story 25. Implementation of a substantial tax on individuals who earn over $900 million annually, with all the revenue allocated to public programs such as free, healthy school lunches. Story 26. Send out a presidential alert that aliens are real and control world governments. Leak the phone numbers of every nation's leaders. Take the Oval Office desk home as a souvenir. Story 27. Use Gatorade instead of water to water the gardens of the White House because it contains electrolytes. Story 28. I will do my best to eliminate Citizens United. However, in reality, it would take more than a day to amend the Constitution. Story 29. That is a good question. Free healthcare is available for United States citizens who have been citizens for 5 years or longer. This means that if you have been a citizen for at least 5 years, you receive free healthcare for the duration of your life in the United States. This does not include undocumented immigrants. Story 30. Send all nuclear weapons to space on a one-way trip to prevent any future individual from easily causing mass destruction. Story 31. I'm surprised nobody has suggested reversing the tariffs. It's the primary reason why the United States economy is declining right now. Story 32. Executive order to establish a mechanism for citizens to remove their representatives before the next voting term, along with term limits and age limits. Story 33. I would remove JD and Elon and then end my life. I would leave a note stating that I was delusional and that the new government should work to mend the bridges I have burned with our allies. Additionally, Melania preferred Trudeau over me, and I cannot get over that. Furthermore, Putin had information on me, so please do not harbor too much resentment. I was the best president, probably the best president in history. Story 34. Hate crimes should be illegal. Using racial slurs, performing Nazi salutes, and wearing Ku Klux Klan outfits are not expressions of free speech. They are acts of hate that can lead to violence in our society. Story 35. Ban lobbying, overturn the Citizens United decision, and make it illegal for any elected official to own or trade stocks. Story 36. Bring all power back to the people. Nothing can happen without approval from the citizens. Everything would be initiated and executed only through the votes of the citizens. Story 37. Executive Order. Citizens United is now illegal, and any individuals or parties will be fined 150% of the raised funds. Story 38. Shift the United States back toward a more environmentalist direction in honor of President Hoover. Expand national forests and parks. Crack down on oil and gas pollution. Implement stricter policies for fisheries and coastal water activities. Ban underwater drilling. Emphasize the transition to green energy. Story 39. There is much to accomplish. Dismiss the entire cabinet immediately and replace them with dishrags or ferrets until new members can be appointed. Prohibit the phrase "Make America Great Again," as Germany banned Nazi-related terminology. Revoke all executive orders issued since January 20th based on the Intolerance for Stupid Nonsense Act. Arrest all representatives who voted against certifying the election. Offer Marsha Blackburn the choice between exile in her birth state of Mississippi or detention at Guantanamo Bay, with the stipulation that she may never leave her chosen location. Reopen the Department of Education, prioritizing the development of critical thinking and civics curricula to be taught in all high schools. Classify Moms for Liberty as a terrorist organization and establish a new and improved Love Your Librarian Day. Arrest and imprison any former presidents who are felons and all South African immigrants who own social media companies, balancing the consequences for the former with the joy of the latter. Increase taxes on the top 1%, and if they complain, make all taxes progressive rather than regressive. Repeal the decision that corporations are considered people, and restrict what individuals can invest in elections to prevent anyone from buying influence again. Contact the leaders of our allied nations and sincerely apologize. Resume aid to Ukraine at an increased level. Offer 6 of the 9 Supreme Court justices the chance to retire quietly. They will likely want to. Dine at a reputable restaurant in Georgetown where I attended college. Finally, invite Al Franken to meet with me at the White House to discuss whether he would accept leadership once my term is complete. Board the presidential airplane, remove my shoes, toast to a new beginning, and fly home, never to be heard from again. Story 40. Draft and sign an executive order making it so that religious functions are no longer tax-exempt. I can't think of a way to word it that excludes religions involved in politics from this exemption, so let's move forward. Now they all have to pay taxes. Secondly, an executive order stating that no one who is a convicted felon can serve as an elected official. Story 41. I would rewrite our Constitution. Our current form of government is dividing the nation, and it isn't working. Our forefathers had us vote for the individual rather than the party because they didn't want political parties to gain too much control. Obviously, that didn't work, so it's time to rethink things. We should move to a parliamentary system like the rest of the Western world. We should have everyone vote for the party they most align with and allocate seats to parties based on a percentage of the vote. This will allow you to vote for a party without worrying that your vote will not be heard. This will ensure that the government does not concentrate all power in one party. This will help ensure America does not flip-flop on its promises every time the president changes. Story 42. To dissolve the position of president and establish an executive council voted in by the people. No more central figurehead thinking they are a ruler instead of one of the 3 branches of government. Story 43. I would declassify all government documents related to unidentified flying objects. Let's see if those conspiracy theorists were correct all along. Story 44. Deport Elon Musk and, as a bit of cruelty, tell him his child with Grimes is actually mine. Alternatively, hire Monica Lewinsky for a day for a personal encounter under the desk. Story 45. Giving the president away to someone else. If it has never been done before, I will first make a new law that states you can do it. I will call it the presidential pass. Pass. Pass, please. Story 46. Make everything free. Money is not needed. It has been a problem for a long time, and honestly, even the need to buy and sell is somewhat outdated. There are people who would work their jobs for free if they knew they would be provided for. The idea of working in a field while knowing that your clothes and everything else will be taken care of, simply because someone enjoys making clothes, is appealing. I understand it would require effort, but I do not believe wealth should exist at all. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.